Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Time Travel. And before we really start today's video, I just want to wish everybody a happy new year, a happy new decade, because obviously 2020, it's here. It is the start of a new decade, a fresh start. It's pretty awesome. But in today's video, we're actually going to be going back to the turn of a different decade, actually the turn of the century, back in 1999. And we're going to be taking a look at the Microsoft Year 2000 Resource CD. And around that time, the world was getting ready for Y2K and the inevitable Y2K problem. And this whole problem was essentially attributed to the fact that a lot of computer applications from around that time, and especially prior to that time, used the last two digits of whatever year it was to, correspond to the year, and just assuming that 19 was, displayed beforehand. At midnight on the year 2000, how are these programs going to handle displaying the year 2000? And as we all know, the world survived. Planes didn't fall out of the sky. The banking systems didn't crash. The world didn't end. Obviously, there were a lot of predictions about what was going to happen on Y2K that were very exaggerated. But the underlying problem of, computers not displaying the date properly was still a pretty serious problem, and it needed to be addressed. And there were some problems that did happen. There were some computer systems that did not get updated, did not get patched in time, and actually displayed the year as 1900. So today what we're going to basically be doing is talking about one of the ways that Microsoft assisted computer users in patching this Y2K bug, and that is with what you can see on screen here, and as I said before, with the Microsoft Year 2000 Resource CD. This was an article that was published on Microsoft's news site on November 10th, 1999, and it is an interview with Don Jones, who at this time was the director of Year 2000 Readiness. Yes, that was the actual position Microsoft had at this time, apparently. And so Don, I assume, was in charge of overseeing this effort to really inform computer users, let them know about this bug. First of all, that this bug exists. That's obviously letting people know about it, and what they can do about it, and how Microsoft is going to help with it. And one of the things that Kevin Johnson, who is the vice president, at least at this time, of Microsoft's product support services, what he highlights is this thing called the Microsoft Year 2000 Resource CD. And what this was a free CD that Microsoft would send you if you subscribe to it, that contains, as he says right here, software updates and tools that consumers can use. And they also had a plethora of information on their website that you could actually access to kind of, better inform yourself about this whole thing. Here is a snapshot, thanks to the old net, of a Microsoft TechNet page. This was actually accessed by going to Microsoft.com/Y2K. And you can see they have a lot of resources on here. They've got a product guide, a link to the Windows 95 compliance update, the Year 2000 product analyzer, product workbook, and this right here is the Resource Center CD, which actually contains both of these pieces of software, which we're going to get into in a minute. And there's also a news group that you could access and chat with other people. So yeah, that is a very brief history on this bug and kind of what Microsoft was doing about it at the time. You can see that they had a lot of effort put into this for the fact that they had a literal position in charge of overseeing the Year 2000, readiness program, if you want to call it that. But let's just go ahead and just dive right into it and take a look at what is on this CD and basically how it works. So this version right here, there were actually multiple versions of this CD. This one right here is from June of 1999. There were versions later than that, all the way up to, I believe, November, and there were some versions prior to this as well. So we're just going to go ahead and run the CD, which automatically runs the executable. And the first thing we get is the end user license agreement. We're just going to agree to that. And this is the Resource CD interface right here. Now the first thing that it has is, obviously, it just kind of tells you what it is. It tells you that all of the website content, because there's a lot of website content contained on this CD as well, was last updated on May 17th, 1999. Essentially what this was is, because as you probably saw from this page here, as I said, there was the product analyzer and the product workbook. Both of those programs are contained on this CD right here. But if you didn't have internet access and you couldn't even view this web page, well, what could you do? Well, that's where this Resource CD came in. Because on this Resource CD, if you click Browse Microsoft Year 2000 website content, you literally have a snapshot of this very same website. You had basically all of that same stuff from this website snapshot that Microsoft included on the CD. You can browse to all of these pages. Now, you can't access everything. For example, if you try to click on the Year 2000 Resource Center CD link, it actually wants to redirect you to a page on Microsoft.com. But most of this stuff on here, like the frequently asked questions, the news group, you're not going to be able to access, obviously, but like for the frequently asked questions, you can go into there. You can go into the product guide and actually view more information about, this product itself. So like I said, there's a lot of web content on this CD. There's a lot of like reading material, stuff to educate yourself on this bug and how it could affect your computer. Now above that though, they do have this please read this first link, which actually kind of lets you know some of the things that you're going to need, some of the prerequisites you're going to need to have to actually display all this website content. So it has bundled on this CD a version of Internet Explorer 5.0. You also have NT4 Service Pack 5, at least the README document to that, which is essentially a brief little README document that lets you know that there are some updates for Windows NT. SP5 contains the latest known Year 2000 updates for Windows NT 4.0. And under the website content that we already took a look at, we have a link that actually tells you how you can subscribe to this CD to get newer versions mailed to you as they came out. So this is where you could actually call this number 1-888-MSFT-Y2K, and they've got the actual number down here. And this is for the US. Obviously, they've got all these different countries here that you would call these numbers. Some of them do have online registration only. For example, if you were in Japan, you were out of luck by calling by phone. You had to register online. So yeah, this is where you would actually get the information on like what number to call depending on what country you were in to have Microsoft mail you newer versions of this CD as it came out. Below that, we actually have one of the programs that I want to show you guys, and that is the Year 2000 Product Analyzer. What this did is if you actually click on this here and click on the install link here, it's going to install the Year 2000 Product Analyzer. And this tool, let's just install it to the default directory. We'll go ahead and create that, and there we go. So this tool, what it would do is analyze all of the programs on your system for any programs that were not patched, essentially, that still needed to be patched before Y2K. So it creates a new folder right here, the Microsoft Year 2000 Product Analyzer, and we can run the program right here. So this is the little wizard right here. We're going to click on next, and we're going to go with the custom settings so that I can actually show you some of the more options that this program has. First off, you can select what drives that you want to scan. In this case, we're just going to scan the C drive because I don't have any floppy disk inserted, and the resource CD is in the D drive. But if you had multiple hard drives on your system, or if you wanted your CDs scanned as well, this program could do that for you. So we're just going to go ahead and hit next, and this is where if you had an internet connection and if this website was still up, we're not going to be able to do this now. This is where you can actually update the compliance database, as it's called, which basically contained a list of what applications were compliant with the Y2K standard. This I'm certain is not actually going to work because obviously this server is not up anymore, so it's just going to say that it can't find the URL. Next, it's going to ask you what database that you want to use since you didn't download the latest one, which is this text file located in the C Y2K scan directory. And if we go take a look at that, let me just go into my computer here and show you what that document looks like. If we go into C Y2K scan, if we go into this document right here, and apparently this is too large for Notepad to open. We'll open it with WordPad. And you can see this is a giant text file with all of these programs in here that, were compatible. I guess they were like specific version that were compatible with, Y2K or that were Y2K compliant. So if you had like an older version of, and there's a lot of Microsoft software in here as well. I mean, you can scroll down and all this stuff from Office 97, Excel 97. I mean, you can see there's a lot of Microsoft software in here. So if you had, for example, a version of Internet Explorer that was not compliant with Y2K, this program would warn you about it. So yes, it is a gigantic text file. Word or Notepad cannot even open it. You have to use WordPad. So let's go back here to the Product Analyzer. So we're going to use that database. We're going to hit next. And for data source, if you had multiple data sources, you could select all. and hit next, and then it asks you what file format you want to use when it creates the report. We'll just go with HTML for this case. And it's going to ask you where you want to save the scan to. Click next, and then click next once again, and it will now scan your computer. Obviously, this is going to go pretty quickly here because we don't have a lot of software installed. But it has found 9 programs matched in the product compliance database. A product compliance report was generated. So let's hit view report now and click finish and see what it found. And here is that report right here. So it first kind of gives you some information about your machine, what operating system that you're using, and then it has a list of the applications that it found. Now it does give you this very important notice right here, basically saying that if you have a compliant application running on an incompliant operating system, you might still have problems, and so it also will check your operating system to make sure that you're running the latest version. And if we scroll down here, you can see a very detailed list of all of the applications that are compliant, which ones are not compliant, and in some cases which ones that the system or that the program does not know if they're compliant or not. And a lot of these programs, actually all but IE6 and Outlook Express 6, all of them say they are compliant, but they need a required prerequisite. For example, PowerPoint 95 that I have, it says that you need to have an Office 95 year 2000 update, which is available and you can get it here. And again, if you didn't have the ability to access that and actually download it, well, you could actually get some of these updates from what was included on the CD. Some of the Windows updates and the Office updates were actually included on the year 2000 resource CD. And like I said, in some cases, for example, IE6 and Outlook Express 6.0, the tool actually doesn't know if they're compliant or not. And that's because that these versions did not exist when this tool was released. So obviously they're not going to be in that database, right? So the program doesn't even know if they're compliant or not. Now we know that they are because, they were widely in use after the year 2000. So they definitely were Y2K compliant, but the program just isn't able to tell that, like I said, because it's not in the database. And down here you have a giant wall of text called the use terms here, which has some more information for you. Basically saying that this is provided as is, and Microsoft is not going to be responsible if you don't take their advice and you have problems when Y2K comes. So yes, definitely a very, very useful tool. We'll go ahead and just close out of that. But that is not all that's included on this resource CD. If you go back to home here, like I said, we do also have some updates. If you go to the year 2000 product updates, in here is where you can actually install some updates for both your operating system and some additional Microsoft products. So if I was running Windows 95, I could click here, and it's obviously not going to work because I'm not using Windows 95, but it would say that you can install the update from here. The Windows 98 one for me doesn't actually work. It says this update is not designed for your version of Windows. Now it was interesting because the tool that we just ran said that my operating system needed to have a update applied for it to actually display the date properly. We know that that isn't true because the operating system displays the date properly. It is currently displaying the proper date as 2020. So I would assume that it's not designed for my version of Windows because my version of Windows already is Y2K compliant. I assume that's why that it can't install, but for some reason, the tool that we just took a look at, if you were able to tell, did say that I needed to get an update for Windows 98 to become Y2K compliant. You also have Windows NT 4.0 Service Pack 5, which was mentioned in that README document. And then if you go to additional product updates, this is where you can actually get updates for some of the Office programs and Internet Explorer 4.0. So we have Office 95 on this system. As you can see right here, we have Office 95. So we can click on the Office 95 year 2000 update, and this will actually take you through that process. So if we hit next here, we can accept the agreement, click next, and it's going to tell you what programs it looks like all of them need to be updated. So let's click update. And there we go. So yes, it is definitely very useful that they have all of this stuff on here for those people who didn't have internet access and weren't able to get these updates themselves. You also have some other related items down here. You have once again a link to this same website here. If we click on this, this is actually going to open up a website and not something that was just saved on the CD. So this is obviously not available anymore. Although I'm wondering if this is the same website because this is Microsoft.com/year2000 instead of Y2K. So let's actually go back to the old net and type in that address, and let's see if we can actually go to this website and if it is any different. No, so it looks like it's the exact same thing. So this is literally just a link to the live version of the website that's already stored on the CD. You can also install the Excel Date Migration Wizard, which would obviously, help with Microsoft Excel, which we don't have the latest version required. We need Excel 97. We're running Excel 95. And last but not least, you have the Year 2000 Product Workbook, which apparently is not a valid file format for Excel 95. So, but yes, that is essentially what this CD was and what was included on it. Again, Y2K, as we all know, like I said, there were some problems. There were some computer systems that still had problems. In some cases, even after January 1st, there were some cases that I've actually heard of some computer systems that, created problems even after January 1st. But like I said, this worldwide effort that Microsoft helped play a part in was definitely really helpful in mitigating this whole bug and kind of informing people about it, letting them know what they can do to fix it. And yeah, so there you have it, guys. That is a look at the Year 2000 Resource CD 20 years later here in 2020. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, definitely sure to give it a thumbs up. Be sure to get subscribed down below and turn on those channel notifications if you haven't already to get notified whenever I upload a new video, which I do every single week on this channel. And as always, guys, if you have any feedback and any comments from me, be sure to leave those down below, as I always enjoy reading what you guys have to say. And as always, I just want to thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.